1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. We're live. Live on Periscope. Are we live on YouTube? 95.3. All right. Live on YouTube as well. I obviously will wait for the masses to flock in to this live stream. Hold on. Have a great interview lined up for you with Krystal Ball of The Hill Rising. So looking forward to showing you that. Krystal and I spoke a little bit earlier. Great interview on many, many topics. So excited to show you that. Hold on. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to trickle in here to the live stream. Hope you're having a nice day, everybody. Hold on. All right, we got that. All right, we got over 100 people watching already. Holy cow. All right, let me start. So there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of different things. Obviously, we'll start. Coronavirus is absolutely out of control. Obviously, good news of a potential vaccine that is 90% effective. That is good news. But the bad news, which I'm going to get into a little bit more later, is the virus is out of control. We had almost 140,000 cases just yesterday. It seems to be going up and up and up every day. I remember when I was in Philadelphia with Jen covering the campaign, the election a couple days ago. It was at that point a record 120,000 cases. Now, yesterday was 140,000 cases. Even worse, the death count is starting to go up significantly. You see that up 23% death count over the last 14 days. And we know in March and April, we had nearly 2,000 Americans dying a day. So that number is not good. We're going to get into it. Obviously, President Trump has basically checked out, aside from, basically talking about fraud and the election being stolen. He's not doing anything about COVID. Frankly, governors around the country are not doing enough about COVID. We are still seeing, there was in fact a event indoors in Georgia today. Earlier today, Marco Rubio was in Georgia to campaign for the Republicans that are in the Georgia Senate race. And actually, literally a CNN reporter and their crew left because it was a mostly maskless indoor event. So that's how bad it's getting, to the point where news crews don't feel safe. The weather is getting colder, and this virus thrives in the weather. So we're going to get into COVID in a little bit. We're also going to get into, apparently, progressives. Elizabeth Warren is lobbying to be Biden's Treasury Secretary. Bernie is apparently lobbying to be Biden's Labor Secretary. But Biden, so far, if you look at his transition team, I'm not feeling so positive that he's picking Bernie Sanders or, frankly, Elizabeth Warren, who ain't no progressive in my view. I don't think so. But progressives have made demands. The Sunrise Movement, Justice Democrats, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And we will, of course, talk about an update on Trump's election fraud cabal, which is nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. So before I get to that, I'm going to air the interview with Krystal in just a minute. Press that like button. It's 300 people watching already. Everybody, if you can, please smash that like button. The more people that smash the like button, the more people that will see this very live stream. And I just want to tell you about something. I always keep it real. I always keep it real. So I want to tell you about a situation we're dealing with right now in the background. Give me 1 second so I can upload the member graphic. Okay, so as you know, Status Coup is independent. We have never taken a dime from banks, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, military-industrial complex, none of it. We are funded by you. We are our main business model is paid membership. Paid membership. You could become a member for as low as $5 a month. Totally taking you kind of behind the scenes of what's been going on here. We started seeing about 2 weeks ago. I mean, we've lost members due to COVID, people canceling, people losing their jobs. We understand. But about 2 weeks ago, we started seeing a real accelerated pace of what looked like cancellations in terms of membership, to the point where I would go to bed, our membership number would be at a certain amount. I'd wake up, we had lost like 20 members. That is abnormal. That's not normal that we were suddenly losing 20 members every day. Obviously, we have lost members since March because of coronavirus and a lot of people having to cancel, losing their jobs, things like that. But losing 20 paid members a day, not normal. Then, yesterday, I literally, in the afternoon, took a walk with my wife. Before I left for my walk, we were at 1,640 members. 2.5 hours later, when I came back, we were down to 1,604 members. So that's a nearly 40 member drop in 2 hours. So obviously something is going on in terms of the tech, our back end. Jen and Colin have been looking into it all day, trying to figure out, are we actually losing this many members, or is something going on in our back end that members are accidentally being purged? We don't know. But the bottom line is we're losing literally yesterday before I went to a walk, we were at 1,600 members. Right now, it's showing in our system we are at 1,582. Needless to say, I mean, people aren't jumping off Status Coup, in 20, 30 membership droves every day. So we're trying to figure it out, but bottom line, until we figure it out, our membership keeps going down, which is a major, major problem and crisis for us because we are not funded by anybody but you. So I'm telling you the God's honest truth. We have no idea what's going on. Our payments go through Stripe and PayPal. That's our membership. You could sign up as a member through PayPal or Stripe. We've reached out to both Stripe. We've reached out to both PayPal to ask why suddenly are we losing 20 to 30 members every single day. It makes no sense, particularly when we're growing on YouTube. We just passed 95,000 subscribers on YouTube and are up on YouTube, I think, about 4,000 to 5,000 subscribers in like 2 weeks. So we are going to work on it, but if you have the means, I ask you every day, but right now it's kind of we have a situation. If you have the means, please sign up as a Status Coup member today, statuscoup.com/join. You get bonus content, behind the scenes videos. You will be able to join our members only Discord and our members only phone calls Zoom calls with Jen and I. So you're signing up and getting great content and bonus features too. But as of right now, we have no idea what's going on. We have no idea why the system is showing that we're losing 20, 30 members a day, and we are actually, in some cases, losing 20 to 30 members in like a 2-hour span. There's got to be a glitch. We're trying to figure it out. But please, sign up, statuscoup.com/join, because if we keep going down like this, it's not going to be good. That's all I have to say. You could also, if we don't really push it often, but just to kind of spread it around, if you want, you could also sign up through Patreon. You could sign up through Patreon also and become a patron to Status Coup. We will put the link in the super chat. And lastly, please, if you are a Status Coup member, go double check that your memberships and make sure they are active. Make sure your membership is still active. We are nearly certain that it's a tech issue and that these cancellations are not actually. We are nearly certain this is a tech issue, and for some reason they are. I don't know if they're canceling the memberships or it's just showing up that these memberships are getting canceled. But please if you're a member, please, please, please go look. Make sure you're still active. Jen could tell you. If you have any questions about how you do that, email us, info@statuscoup.com, or Jen will tell you in the super chat. But the bottom line is, I'm just telling you straight up, if our membership keeps going down, we're going under. And nobody wants that. So please, 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 Jay just asked, how do we check? Jen, if you could let them know how to check in the super chat, or just text me and I'll explain to them how to check. Okay. Maybe I'll remind you about this a little bit later, but this is very important because we're not going to sell out. We're not taking money from any of the usual suspects. We are funded through membership. So we need to make sure that we keep our membership and keep growing our membership. So with that said, and Jen, do me a favor, text me. Let me know how people could check their memberships, since somebody already asked. Thank you, Joy of Tarot, $2. Congrats on getting married. Oh, hold on. Hello. Hello. Jen?
Hello?
Yeah. You just called me.
Hello?
Hi. Oh, I don't know. All right. Without further ado, let me just see. Hello?
Hello?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Talk. Hold on one second. One second, folks.
Hi, this is Jen.
Hello?
Hello, everyone. Jordan says you guys can hear me. I wanted to call in and clear up a couple of things about this membership issue. So the way that we run this through something called MemberPress, which is on WordPress, if you guys are at all techie and familiar with.
All right, I'm going to air the Krystal Ball interview because I'm not getting service down here. After the Krystal Ball interview, Jen will call in again. Here's Krystal Ball. I interviewed her earlier this morning. Please, 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 please smash that like button. Super chats welcome. All that good stuff. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Krystal Ball of Rising fame. Definitely check out Rising. I think you're almost at a million subscribers. I'm jealous.
Getting there. It's been very exciting what we've seen happen there this year.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to start. We could get to Trump later, but I guess it's improvement. We're not hearing Russia responsible for Democrats' loss this time, at least yet. We're hearing socialism, defund the police, and a bunch of fact-free nonsense. I wanted to get your thought because it's kind of like just there's data, there's facts. I mean, it's not hard to find that none of these candidates that lost were running on defund the police or Medicare for all or anything like that. What do you think of the latest spin, and how do progressives combat that?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, there are facts and data, not that they care. They want to assert this like vague sense that, Medicare for all and defund the police were some big issue when you actually look at the data. Number one, progressive ballot initiatives were extraordinarily popular, whether it was decriminalizing all drugs in the state of Oregon, legalizing marijuana, or $15 minimum wage in Florida, which passed with 60% of the vote. What's more, every single candidate in a swing district who backed Medicare for all won, whereas who got tossed out? A bunch of do-nothing, blue dog corporatists. So that's the reality, not to mention the fact that, look, Democrats got the nominee that they wanted in Joe Biden. Like, the Democratic establishment got their centrist corporatist candidate in Joe Biden. They've got Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi in leadership, and Sherry Bustos, another corporatist, running the DCCC. So they were in control of the party and the messaging. Seems logical to me that any failures thereof stem directly from the leadership and their lack of ability to run really on anything other than we're not Trump. So to me, look, if Bernie had been the nominee or even Elizabeth Warren had been the nominee and there were failures down ballot, 100% they would blame the top of the ticket, but it doesn't serve their narrative. So surprise, surprise, they're finding another way to punch left, which is what they always, always, always do, even though they have all the leadership structure and the candidate that they said the Democrats had to nominate in order to perform, and ultimately they still don't perform.
Right. I'd like your thoughts, because on one end, you got Biden, every other Tuesday, you see a piece that he's going to be like FDR, but then you get, the lowering of expectations. He doesn't really talk about the public option like he did during the campaign. Yeah. You're hearing, you heard from his, I guess, top advisor, we're really behind the eight ball with debt. We don't know if we're going to be able to do much. And you're already seeing them basically throwing up their hands like, well, McConnell, he might have the Senate, so they'll block everything. So it just seems to me like this narrative that, I'm going to be like FDR and there's nothing America can't do is actually being hijacked by the Uber, Facebook, and other Wall Street types he's already thinking about putting in his administration.
Yeah, he's going to govern the way that he's governed for 47 years, right? We shouldn't expect any big surprises. It doesn't happen ever that a politician gets elected and then does lots of good stuff that they didn't promise you on the campaign trail. It happens all the time that they promise things that sound good and then they don't deliver. But they never get into an office and then are like, oh my God, surprise, by the way, we're going to give you guys health care. Like, that doesn't happen. We didn't even get a specific commitment to what a stimulus package would look like from Joe Biden. He certainly didn't run on that. So yeah, I observed the same thing you observed the minute that it looked like Democrats weren't going to get control of the Senate. As one example, Ruth Marcus over the Washington Post, she wrote, oh, Joe Biden's got mission impossible now. He can't get anything done because the Senate will be intransigent. And certainly, the Senate will be intransigent. Any idea that Joe Biden is going to be able to work together with Mitch McConnell on anything that would be positive, he could work with him on maybe some, bad trade deals or something like that, I think is a complete fantasy. But in the same respect, we shouldn't let them off the hook. There's nothing that Democrats love more than an excuse for their impotence. So think about this. You've got Trump, who they consider and is in certain ways a unique threat, and they can certainly wrap their mind around how he, through the office of the presidency, can make dramatic changes to the country. Well, Joe Biden is about to have that same power. And if he wants to use it through regulatory enforcement, through executive orders, he too can make large and dramatic changes. A couple of obvious examples are rescheduling marijuana. Another one is he could, with an executive order, very firm ground to eliminate the student debt burden. This is something that Elizabeth Warren and actually Chuck Schumer, who's clearly terrified of a primary challenge, are pushing him to do. So there's still a lot that he could do, which may not be the fundamental transformation that you and I would like to see, but nonetheless would be significant and make a difference. We should not give him a pass and lower expectations from day one that, mean Republicans are going to block any good thing. So all we can hope for is rolling back the clock to 2012 and getting rid of some of the Trump era executive orders.
But Rahm Emanuel told me we're going to put a down payment on progressive values. So it must be that simple.
And what does that even mean to Rahm Emanuel? I'm frightened to know what that means from Rahm Emanuel.
And something you guys do really well, you and Sagar, is talk about kind of the long-term trends. You're not really hearing this, but Biden shrunk from Hillary's margins among black women, black men, Latino women. Honestly, Trump went from 8% to 12% among black people. 4% doesn't sound like a lot, but for Donald Trump and the Republicans, I would say it is. I think Trump and that, he got a record number of votes for Republicans. Is that more sustainable, that increased Republican turnout, or that increased Democratic turnout when you're not going to have Trump to run against? Because it seems like the Democratic Party, you, Chuck Rocha, have talked about it extensively, really didn't really bother that much with extensive Latino outreach and Black outreach seemed kind of late as well.
Yeah, no, they got exactly the coalition that they wanted. They got exactly the voters to turn out and get excited who they targeted. The restore the soul of the nation, this sort of like vague, decency is on the ballot type of rhetoric was targeted at a very specific group of suburban, mostly white, affluent voters. And that, in fact, is where we saw the largest increases for Joe Biden. Here in Virginia, Stafford County, which is one I'm really familiar with, had this massive, it's an exurban town here where people are commuting into DC. Not super rich, but relatively doing well, relatively prosperous, white collar, massive shift towards Biden. Same thing with Loudoun County. Those are the voters that they really sought to appeal to, and they were very successful in that. I will say, there's a lot of kind of triumphalism, weirdly, among Republicans, even though they lost, because they see these modest gains among Black voters and more significant gains among Latino voters. I was just digging into some of the data on Latino voters in particular, and where they actually made gains was overwhelmingly with the wealthiest Latino voters. So Joe Biden and the Democrats still overwhelmingly won voters under 50K, voters between 50 and 100K. Donald Trump actually won Latino voters over 100K. So there's more of a class story to tell within that Latino vote than has been dug into yet nationally, which makes sense. We're still getting results in and still digging into all of this. I'd be interested to see those numbers among African American voters too. The other piece that I'm really curious about is generational. I mean, as you and I know from covering the Sanders campaign, massive generational divide in their sort of partisan loyalty. Like there's just not as much of we're just going to be partisan cheerleaders for the Democrats no matter what they do, or partisan cheerleaders for the Republicans no matter what they do. And so some of the early indicators I saw in the African American vote was that it was actually younger African Americans more than older African Americans who shifted towards Donald Trump. So I think that's a really interesting phenomenon to dig into as well. But overall, look, I didn't think either of these candidates really deserved to win. I prefer Joe Biden. I think he'll be better than Donald Trump, and I'm relieved that Donald Trump lost. But this result to me is as close to voters rejecting everybody as you could get. There were losses and disappointments all the way around, and I sort of think that's appropriate given that you had two guys who essentially ran on nothing in terms of an affirmative, positive economic agenda for the American people. To me, that lane is still wide open if anyone wants to take it. Unfortunately, what I think is more likely is that these two parties continue to largely represent their respective elite interests, and that the working class largely remains divided among racial lines.
Right. And in terms of the progressive movement, I mean, listen, I'm a little cynical. I don't see us moving Joe Biden left. I think we're lucky if we prevent him from going, full-born John Kasich. With that said, Obama, progressives largely went to sleep, but you didn't have the Sunrise Movement then. You didn't have this infrastructure that in large part came from the Bernie movement. What do you think in terms of the progressive movement? Are we going to see more, AOC calling Pelosi Mama Bear and a lot of the progressive caucus kind of not that confrontational with the Democratic leadership? Maybe it's because they didn't have the numbers. Now they have more numbers. What do you see playing out? What would you like to see play out in terms of now you have Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, and obviously the remaining progressives in the Senate and House?
I share your cynicism and your skepticism. Joe Biden, from his perspective, won the primary telling progressives to piss off, won the general election with young voters surging in turnout and providing him with a larger margin than Hillary Clinton won, young voters being overwhelmingly progressive. So he brought people over without having to give in 1 inch to the progressive side of the party. I think that's his view, and he'll govern consistent with how he's governed over the past 47 years. What I will say on a more optimistic note is you are 100% right that there is a lot more infrastructure. There's a lot more space. Independent outlets like your own help provide some of that voice that was much more limited back during the Obama administration. And so the fact that days after Joe Biden wins the election, you have people like AOC already coming out and saying, here's our demands, here's what's unacceptable, here's how your narrative about centrism being ascended is bullshit. The fact that you have that out of the gates is dramatically different from the Obama administration. We should recognize that as progress in and of itself. I think the only place where there's real power to be potentially wielded is in both primaries in 2022 and primary against either Joe or Kamala in 2024. That's the next time when you really have leverage. And I think that's the most important tool for progressives and democratic socialists to ultimately wield at this point, where, you know, our threat of like, oh, this is what we want, not accompanied with any sort of power or impetus behind it, it's going to fall on deaf ears. But the way that you hold people accountable, because ultimately all they care about is being able to maintain their seat, maintain power, is them feeling threatened by a potential Democratic primary result. And with respect to 2024, I don't even think you need, because they're so uptight and get so freaked out by any challenge to the sort of neoliberal power establishment, I don't think you even need a primary challenge that they're convinced could be successful. I think the mere threat of like, oh my God, we can't have a messy primary because they just want like no dissent, like a bunch of authoritarians, even that threat, I think, would create a lot of ultimate angst for them. Last thought on this, on the more pessimistic side, I think it's entirely likely that Donald Trump does run again in 2024, and I think it's almost certain that he threatens to run again in 2024. So it was a very effective method that Democrats used this time, being like, you got to stay in line because Trump is terrible and we can't have any dissent, can't have any of these like, you know, criticizing of the Democratic Party elite because Donald Trump and because the Republicans are so bad. I think it's highly likely that you still have that very effective threat hanging out there, quashing dissent. So that's my sort of concern for what the landscape is going to look like moving forward.
It's a good segue to my last question. You and I both, I mean, you were much higher than I, used to work at MSNBC, so you talk about corporate media a lot. I don't know. All these MSNBC, you know, rehabilitated warmongers, they're aghast at what Trump is doing, but I kind of feel low-key, the MSNBCs of the world, the Democratic consulting class, they kind of want Trump to hang around because how are they going to get ratings if Donald Trump is not in the picture? I mean, the people will go back to brunch, so to speak. Do you feel like these same people that are aghast that Trump won't, you know, diplomatically step aside might not, you know, might like the threat of Donald Trump running again, of him having, you know, whatever comes next, Trump TV, because it keeps the anger and fear machine out there?
100%. And so if you are under the illusion that, you know, look, I think Donald Trump is a mess right now. He's ridiculous. All of these allegations are outrageous. The fact that he's not conceding is unconscionable. And I mean, unexpected, like completely expected, right? We all knew that this was the path he's going to go down. But the idea that once he leaves, and he will leave, that he's going to just go away is pure fantasy. And I think one of the reasons is exactly what you're laying out. If he's over there tweeting and doing his own media brand and channel or whatever, which is what I expect him to do and what there's been some reporting indicating he wants to do, of course the cable news networks are still going to cover that like crazy, day in and day out. Because they ultimately are driven by profit motives and a bottom line. And Donald Trump has been very, very good for their ratings. Very, very good for, you know, a bunch of multimillionaire resistance liberal grifters who are going to keep that that train moving as well. So yeah, Donald Trump may be out of the White House, but and this is fair in a lot of ways, he will still be the leader of the Republican Party because they all still are going to slavishly, embarrassingly like fawn over him and listen to him. And the media is going to give him all the airtime and all the like frenetic panic attacks that he possibly could want.
We should point out, I mean, Lindsey Graham, a lot of these Republicans now saying, you know, count the votes. He has the legal means. We're really 20 years ago. Stop counting in Florida. Stop all the counting. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy has no end. But thank you, Krystal, Rising on the Hill on YouTube. You guys do great work, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Jordan. Same to you.
Okay. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you. So that was Krystal Ball. Appreciate her taking the time. Thanks for the super chats that are coming in. Keep them coming. I think that interview is a very good segue to the next story here. Shockingly, looks like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to be frozen out of a Biden cabinet. New reporting says. And let me just give some shout outs in the super chat. Hold on. Keep smashing that like button, by the way. We got 1,200 people watching, 600 something likes. Press the thumbs up button right under the live stream. Robbie, $14.99. Appreciate it, Robbie. What else do we have here? Wow, going so quickly. Yvonne, $25. Krystal is awesome. She gets that the fight is long term. Couldn't agree more. So, Bernie apparently wants to be labor secretary for Biden. Warren, who sold Bernie out, apparently wants to be Treasury Secretary. We know that Warren should have dropped out of the primary after New Hampshire. Could have ended up differently. Bernie possibly could have won a lot more Super Tuesday states if Warren would have got the hell out of the way. But apparently the snake emojis were more important than the long-term future of progressive politics and policy to Elizabeth Warren. But according to a new report, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are reportedly set to be frozen out of President-elect Joe Biden's cabinet amid concerns the party would lose more seats in the upcoming elections. Democrats clung on to their House majority but lost 5 seats, while Republicans picked up 6 and secured their majority in the Senate, barring a major upset in Georgia's runoff election. Each side of the party is blaming the other for the poor results, which came after 4 years of White House chaos under Trump. Left-wing Democrats say the party's offer on progressive causes were not strong enough. Meanwhile, centrist Democrats say the left's socialist messaging puts off Americans living outside big cities. So the New York Times also has a little bit on this. You have Justice Democrats and the Sunrise Movement are recommending at least 13 progressives to join the Biden administration, either in cabinet positions. The Public Appeals for the Sunrise Movement, a group of young climate organizers, and Justice Democrats, a grassroots organization that has helped elect people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, signal the beginning of the left's intense efforts to pressure Mr. Biden over the makeup of his executive branch and his administration's immediate priorities. And the move represents the end of a truce between Biden and progressives, blah, 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 blah. Let's take a look. Quote, President-elect Biden must embrace this historic moment by keeping the party united and appointing progressive leaders who will help usher in the most progressive Democratic administration in generations, Alexandra Rojas, Executive Director of Justice Democrats, said. The list of recommendations for 13 key government positions includes well-known progressive allies, some of whom would most likely be palatable to Democrats across the spectrum. Among those on the list are Barbara Lee, Representative Barbara Lee for Secretary of State, Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, for Attorney General, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal for Secretary of Health and Human Services, Congressman Deb Haaland of New Mexico for Secretary of the Interior, Representative I think it's pronounced Chuy Garcia, if I'm correct, for Secretary of Transportation, Representative Shelley Pingree for Secretary of Agriculture, economist Joseph Stiglitz for National Economic Council Director, Derek Hamilton for the chair of Council of Economic Advisors. He's currently executive director of the Kirwan Institute. And Mustafa Ali, Vice President of Environmental Justice, Climate, and Community Revitalization for the National Wildlife Federation. And they are also talking about Biden creating a new White House Office of Climate Mobilization and appointing as the leader Washington State Governor Jay Inslee, who ran during the Democratic primary primarily on climate change. So let me tell you, first of all, as the Sunrise Movement, I'm not saying don't try. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying. as the Sunrise Movement and the Justice Democrats are doing this and, quote unquote, making demands, Joe Biden, if you look at his transition team, this is from Nathan Robinson of Current Affairs, well, his transition team doesn't exactly scream progressive. Executives from Lyft, Airbnb, Amazon, Capital One, Booz Allen, Uber, Visa, and JP Morgan. How's that for building back better? So, at the end of the day, if the transition team, every president-elect has a transition team, if the transition team, by the way, we're going to post the interview with Krystal in the morning. So if you missed the interview with Krystal, you could, of course, rewatch it on the live stream later, but I'm going to post it as a standalone video tomorrow right here. And keep pressing the like button, keep sharing. Super chats are welcome, and we'll get back to the membership discussion after this topic. The presidential transition team is the figures who appoint the cabinet and staff all of the departments for a president. So if the transition team is littered with Silicon Valley techies who, frankly, are no good, if the transition team is littered by Amazon executives, no good, Capital One, no good, Uber, you hear about Uber and how they treat their workers? No good. JP Morgan, who, like Wells Fargo, has been committing fraud all over America for the last, 20 years. But JP Morgan, very heavily involved in bringing down the global financial economy. I don't know. Do you think these Wall Street bankers, these Silicon Valley executives are going to be choosing progressives to fill out the staff? I understand why the Sunrise Movement, the Justice Democrats, progressive groups, in their mind, don't want to go scorched earth just yet. And what leverage do they really have anyway? But at the end of the day, Biden's already telling you by who he's who makes up his transition team of who the likely people that will be appointed to his cabinet and his departments. We've heard Lael Brainerd as his Treasury Secretary. You might not know her. She served in Bill Clinton's administration. She served in Barack Obama's administration. She was very, very involved with pushing and distributing NAFTA in Bill Clinton's administration. For Obama, she was a champion of the TPP, which probably will be reenacted and pushed by President Biden. The union man Joe, even though TPP, many labor leaders say, will be the final coffin in organized labor's the final nail in organized labor's coffin. He's talking about Susan Rice for Secretary of State, who never known a country she doesn't want to bomb. She pretty much is for the endless wars, military-industrial complex. They are talking about, I believe, for Attorney General Doug Jones, who was the Alabama senator who defeated Roy Moore, the alleged child molester. Doug Jones just lost in Alabama to not a child molester, and Doug Jones is essentially Republican. He would be serving as Attorney General. This is all the reporting of who the leading figures are. You're also hearing about possibly John Kasich in the administration. And let's cut the nonsense here. We don't need unity with Republicans. We don't need unity with Wall Street executives or big Silicon Valley executives who their abuse on their workers is significant. No. This whole characters on the ballot, morality, yeah, that was fine to get rid of Trump. I'm not interested in uniting with Republicans who are pro-life. I'm not interested in uniting with Republicans who are anti-worker, anti-union, for fracking, for destroying the planet, and for endless tax cuts and deregulation, even during a pandemic. No. So, I don't know. I feel like, first of all, I love you, Bernie. Unless Bernie is a lot more skilled politician than we know, unless Bernie was wheeling and dealing in the background and said to Biden, I will go hardcore to try to get you elected. I'll go around the country during a deadly pandemic. but you have to make me labor secretary or you have to give me something. I doubt it. I doubt Bernie received a verbal commitment for Biden to put him in his cabinet. If I'm wrong, I'd be happy to be wrong. Frankly, I don't want to be such a Debbie Downer, but I can't. Even Bernie as labor secretary, I mean, how much power do you think a Bernie Sanders would have in a corporatist like Joe Biden's administration? To me, it would be more symbolic. With that said, progressives need wins, period. And it would be a victory for Bernie to be in Biden's cabinet. I'm not a big fan of Elizabeth Warren. I don't consider her a progressive. I think she is a go with the wind kind of progressive. She sold Bernie out in 2016. She sold Bernie out in 2020. She was for Medicare for all before she moonwalked away from it. She was against super PACs and the toxic effect of corporate money in politics. But then at the last minute of her campaign, she invited the help of a super PAC. Would I rather her as Treasury Secretary than some of the names that have been proposed? Yeah, probably. But do I have big hope that Elizabeth Warren would even have much power? No. And the most important thing is, I think that the Sunrise Movement, I think that the Justice Democrats, although I love their intentions, and both deserve credit, Sunrise Movement, Justice Democrats, for the victories we have had. There would be no climate change town hall during the primaries if not for Sunrise Movement. Climate change would not be the conversation it is now if not for Sunrise Movement. And a lot of the progressive candidates who are winning are being helped by Sunrise Movement to win. With that said, I don't think Sunrise Movement or Justice Democrats quite fully grasp the fact corporate Democrats actually get off. They actually love toying, screwing, and pissing on progressives. They love giving progressives empty rhetoric, empty promises during campaigns, and then once elected, after progressives have helped them get elected, they love then giving you the bird and giving you the middle finger. I know the devil's advocate's going to be like, Jordan, whatever, you voted for Biden, so stop it. Whatever. I'm done with the voting for Biden discussion. You want to call me a sellout, that's fine. I gave you my reasons. I didn't tell you who to vote for, so be it. But the bottom line is, I think that progressives, and we've had this discussion, if you're a Status Coup viewer, and if you're a new viewer, subscribe. We just passed 95,000 subscribers. We're on our way to 100,000. Wouldn't it be nice to hit 100,000 before the new year? So please subscribe. Spread the coup. Spread the word. We really appreciate it. But I think progressives need to realize progressives have zero leverage. Joe Biden is not going to move left or appoint progressives to prominent positions because the Sunrise Movement puts out some tweets or the Justice Democrats puts out some press releases. He's just not. He told progressives to piss off during the election. And you want to know something? Even though he told us to piss off, young people and progressives came out in droves, not for Biden, against Trump. The only way I see that progressives have a chance, and Krystal talked about, we need to primary more Democrats, corporate Democrats in 2022 and 2024, but we can't just focus on primaries and election results and elections that are 2 years from now or 4 years from now. We don't have time for that. The only way you're going to move Joe Biden is if you move Joe Biden's real bosses, and that would be the United Corporations of America. And this goes across parties. It's not just Democrats. It's not just Joe Biden. It's the Republicans, too. The only way Joe Biden is going to be pressured on something like Medicare for all, on something like a Green New Deal, on something like free public college, on universal basic income during a pandemic, on much, much stronger labor protections for organized labor. He's given lip service to all these things, but there's no history of Joe Biden going to battle for union workers, even though he pretended during the campaign, and the media let him get away with it, that he was like Union Guy Joe. He ain't Union Guy Joe. He's for the TPP. He was for NAFTA, all these things. Only way progressives are going to move Joe Biden left is if you threaten Joe Biden's donors. If you threaten the Democratic Party's donors and the Republican Party's donors. If you threaten their wealth. Period. End of story. That is the only way. They didn't kill Martin Luther King merely because he was marching and organizing for civil rights for black people. When he started talking about the evils of capitalism, when he started talking about we need guaranteed jobs in this country, when he started talking about the attack on workers in this country, Martin Luther King was killed. So people need to understand, and right now, I mean, like I showed you, we had 139,000 cases of coronavirus yesterday in America. I don't think right now, honestly, even if you're wearing a mask, I don't think it's particularly safe to be out there protesting. The virus can spread even when you're wearing a mask. I got COVID in April. I was wearing a mask when I was outside. Masks are very, very important. Reports say decrease the spread by 70%. I know a lot of people in this country don't believe that, but that is the truth. That is the science. That is the study. But we need more than circle around blocks. We need more than protesting and marching endlessly around blocks. I'm not a white guy trying to tell Black Lives Matter what to do. It's, obviously it is a black-led movement. Same thing with indigenous rights. Same thing with the Dreamers. They have to protest how they have to protest. But I say, as progressives, it is a fool's errand to think that we are going to move Biden by smart digital social media campaigns, through hashtags, through protests outside the White House, if he's not producing strong enough positions, because Biden doesn't answer to you. He answers to JP Morgan. He answers to Wells Fargo. He answers to Goldman Sachs. He answers to Pfizer. He answers to Facebook. He answers to all the real estate developers that flooded him with cash, all the lobbyists that indirectly flooded him with cash, and the people that he's going to appoint to his cabinet and his departments, they too answer to the donors. So at the end of the day, perfect example, Kamala Harris, she jumps onto Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill when she started to think about running for president. Then right after she announces her run for president, CNN does a town hall with her. It was basically a pillow party. There was not one tough question. But she said, I'm for Medicare for all. I'm for ending get rid of the private insurance industry. How long did it take her to moonwalk faster than Michael Jackson away from that position? 24 hours. What do you think happened in those 24 hours? You think maybe she got either directly or indirectly some negative wins from Wall Street? Wall Street, when you look at hedge funds, when you look at Wall Street investment banks, one of their biggest top lines in their portfolio is the private health insurance industry. They are all invested up to their ears in private for-profit health care. Well, Kamala Harris sprinted far, far away from Medicare for all. Eventually, so did Elizabeth Warren. So why do you think they do that? Because they suddenly see Jesus and realize, no, America shouldn't have what everyone else. They know that the money train will end. And to them, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I'm not saying all of them are corrupt, but all of them answer beyond you. They answer to a higher power than you and I, and that is the almighty United Corporations of America. So, Jordan, great. How do we do it? Well, I don't have all the answers. I ain't saying it's easy to put together a massive, national or global general strike. That's hard as hell. Just getting Occupy Wall Street together was hard as hell, and that really wasn't an economic boycott. But I think progressives really need to start thinking in terms of how do you actually build leverage outside of winning elections? Because we just aren't going to win elections yet. We've won some. We've added our numbers in terms of Congress. Paula Jean lost this time, so we really didn't add our numbers in the Senate. But we haven't gotten to the promised land yet. Obviously, whoever is on that presidential ticket again, I love Bernie, but I hope that they come with knives to a knife fight. I hope they come with guns to a gunfight, figuratively, not literally guns. No violence. Because Bernie, we've gone over it. Love you, Bernie. You came again with a spoon to a knife fight, and that's why you lost, in addition to a lot of rigging that went on. So how do we do it? Well, you got to start. Progressives need to realize through Sunrise Movement, through Justice Democrats, through other organized structures that we did not have during the Obama administration. There was not an organized progressive movement during the Obama administration. Welcome, new patron. Michael just signed up as a Status Coup patron. Thank you, Michael. Let me see if any new members signed up. Holy cow. Welcome, new Status Coup member, Therese. Thank you, Therese, for signing up. So join Therese as a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/join. We need you. After this topic, I'm going to play, Jen just sent me a voice note so we could tell you what's going on with our membership. So please, please, please sign up if you can. But these groups need to start realizing, listen, the avenue to power is not diplomacy with corporate Democrats. It's not giving them the benefit of the doubt. Joe Biden should not get any benefit of the doubt, if you ask me. Joe Biden, even my wife said, well, he hasn't even stepped into office yet. Why don't you give him a chance? No, I ain't giving Joe Biden a chance. There's a deadly pandemic, and he's still propping up for-profit health care, which you can't have. You can't say, if you're Joe Biden, you have a human right to affordable health care. That's what he said during the debate. Well, a right doesn't have a barrier in terms of payment, right? So access to health care really doesn't help me during a deadly pandemic if I can't pay for it, if I don't have the money, if I've lost my job. Joe Biden isn't talking about, he's not talking about free testing and treatment. No. He also, the Democratic Party, their answer to the crazy amount of cases was, let's expand coronavirus. What am I talking about? Let's expand COBRA, the biggest scam of all scams. So at the end of the day, progressive organizations need to realize you could get the New York Times to write stories about these are the officials we want you to appoint. Maybe if you suggest 13, which apparently Justice Democrats and Sunrise Movement suggested 13, if you're lucky, maybe you'll get 2 of them. But to actually put real heat all around the Biden White House, you're going to have to do something that hasn't been done in a long time, maybe since the 1950s and 60s, when we had real strong labor unions in this country who had leverage and to get concessions from CEOs. You're going to have to start organizing strikes, divestment campaigns, and economic pain on the power centers in this country. Amazon, fast foods, corporate banking, and many more structures. And you could say, well, Jordan, if you do that, they're going to lay off workers. Yeah, you're probably right. But you want to know something? We need to come together, not just as progressives, but Americans, and realize that the real way to move politicians is to move their donors. And the real way to move the donors is to threaten their quarterly profits, to threaten their ability to buy back their stocks, to threaten their ability to buy 2 extra yachts this year, to threaten their yearly bonuses, and to threaten their endless gravy train. That is how you're going to move any politician significantly left. Joe Biden will move left if he's forced to move left. Who's going to force him to move left? His donors. Wall Street, Big Pharma, Big Real Estate, Silicon Valley. Why would they force Joe Biden to move left? If their profits are threatened. That's how it works. If you're new here, I use this example over and over again. Washington football team, the owner a couple years ago says it used to be called a slur towards Native Americans. The Washington football team owner years ago says, over my dead body, I'm not changing the name of this team. Well, what happens? This year, activists got organized. They put pressure on FedEx and other sponsors of the Washington football team, and they felt the heat. FedEx and those other sponsors felt the heat, and they went to Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Washington football team, and they said, we're pulling our money and we're pulling our sponsorship if you don't change the name. Change the name. That's how it goes. And I don't want to mislead you. It's not, yes, Lyft is one of the corporations on the transition team. It's not easy. What I'm talking about is not easy. It's going to take not thousands of people. This takes millions of people. It's going to take a lot of creativity. It's going to take maybe us all putting into a giant labor pot, call it labor pot or whatever else, where we all put in money, and that way Amazon workers could strike. And the money they're going to lose from striking, those Amazon workers get it from the universal pot we go in to support them. Same thing with McDonald's, Burger King, Walmart, Facebook, you name it. But everybody needs to have skin in the game. And I just think these progressive groups, although their intentions are pure, although they are righteous in their cause, I think they think that they're being strategic by being diplomatic, playing ball to a certain extent with Biden and Democrats. You're not. They will exploit you, they will lie to you, and they will beat you every time because they currently have the power and you have no leverage. So we need to get leverage. How we get the leverage? Through exactly what I'm talking about. So I want to start hearing progressive groups, progressive activists talking about when are we meeting virtually right now? When are we meeting to talk about economic divestment campaigns? When are we meeting to talk about strikes? Huh? And you're wrong, by the way, Vicky. I love your idea, Jordan, but their wallets will far outlast ours every time. See, that's what you don't get, Vicky. And I respect what you said. Yes, their wallets will outlast ours every time. But rich people and powerful people, they don't like losing any money. Remember, rich people, Wall Street, all these people, they don't really have a legitimate ideology. It's not right. It's not, for the most part. Most of them, they're not, they're culturally kind of liberal, fiscally greedy. So their ideology, Vicky, is it ain't blue, it ain't red, it's green. So if we threaten them even a little bit, if their profits, if their money goes down even a little bit, trust me, Vicky, we won't get Medicare for all in a day. You start taking away these power centers' profit even a little bit, they see a very slippery slope and they want to nip it at the butt. They want to nip it in the butt. So this is what I'm talking about. And I'm going to be, over the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be trying to interview people who have expertise, experience, have made the same arguments that I'm making. How do we actually put together something like this? How do you actually organize an economic protest? How do you bring different constituencies together across generational lines, race lines, class lines, you name it, to put the economic pressure on the donors, because that is where things need to go. I'm not saying let's forget about electoral politics. I'm not saying let's forget about recruiting and running progressive candidates on the state level, on the congressional level, on the Senate level, and of course the presidential level. No. You got to do both things at once. But I think we've been doing one of them without the other. I think a lot of these protests that Status Coup has been covering for years and years and years, although they're righteous, had bodies on the ground and raised awareness, but they have not added to the bodies on the ground and raising awareness the economic aspect. The corporate elite, they will wait you out. They will let black people, they will let brown people, indigenous people, white environmental activists, you name it. They'll let you march around for weeks and months. Everybody thought the world was going to change after George Floyd, right? Well, it didn't. I'm sorry, it didn't. Some things have changed, but for black people, it's more of the same. So they will just say, yeah, let them march around. That's fine. Doesn't affect us. The police will, stop it eventually. So we need economic boycotts with the protests. We need economic boycotts with progressives running on the state level and congressional level. So we'll be talking about this for weeks and maybe months ahead, because this is where the progressive movement needs to go. A twofold strategy, not just electoral politics and economic protest politics as well. All right, we got 950 people watching. If you are new here, subscribe to this channel. We just passed 95,000 subscribers. I think we're up like almost 5,000 subscribers over a few weeks. So we are headed, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing if you were a Status Coup original member? If you were an OG, wouldn't it be amazing if we had 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year? I don't know what I would do if we hit 100,000 subscribers. I would be ecstatic and there'd be special celebrations all over the internet. I'm just kidding, but it would be joyous. So please subscribe. Please spread the coup. The other thing, before I get to my next topic, if you came into this late, let me real quick address this one more time. We are built through membership. Status Coup is built through paid membership. And right now, we do have a bit of a situation where we think it's a technical glitch, but we have been losing a shit ton of members. A shit ton of members. Yesterday, I took a walk with my wife. When I got back, we were down like 25 members. That's not normal. We don't, on a daily basis, especially during coronavirus, we tend to, maybe we've lost like 4 or 5 members a day. We also gained some members, so sometimes it evens out. But we were never losing like 20, 30 members a day. We happen to think, and Colin and Jen are looking into it, that there's a tech glitch in our whatever you call it, behind back end. So we are trying to reach out to PayPal. We are trying to reach out to Stripe and the platforms we use for payments to find out what's going on. But I want to play a video or audio from Jen to tell you how you could check your membership and make sure you're still an active member. Hold on. Oh, don't screw me on this, please. All right, hold on. Let's see if this works.
Software called MemberPress, which is a plugin used for WordPress. So everything has been working great. MemberPress is great, and pretty much every day we check the active member number in the back end of MemberPress. And so Jordan had noticed that our drop in the number of active members was a lot more than it usually was. Because of COVID, we were used to seeing some cancellations here and there and a drop in active members because of that. Well, all of a sudden, we were seeing drops by the dozens in the number of active members. So we started to look into it. We've been writing back and forth with MemberPress. The issue is we have not gotten cancellation emails. So every time that someone cancels their membership through MemberPress, we get a cancellation email to our email address. So we haven't gotten those. We also haven't gotten the number of cancellations through PayPal or Stripe that we would expect to see with like this dozens and dozens of drops in active memberships. So it's a complicated issue, and it's not as simple as saying like, oh, people are canceling their subscriptions, because it really doesn't look like people are canceling their memberships. It could be something like a database issue. It seems like there's some sort of glitch going on that's dropping people without them actively canceling their own memberships, if that makes any sense at all. If you are a member, go to statuscoup.com/account and log in and just make sure that everything looks okay, that it's letting you access the content. If everything is not okay, email us at info@statuscoup.com and let us know the details, like if it's not showing you the content, if you thought you were a paying member and it's saying you no longer are, whatever's going on, let us know. If you have any ideas or tips or thoughts on what could be happening, email us. We are totally at a loss, info@statuscoup.com, because we are a startup. Like, tech support is me, and that's not my thing. So we do need help. We are struggling to figure this out. To be very honest, I'm very stressed out about this. The membership is the backbone of our business, and we really will struggle to survive if we can't take care of this. So any tips are wanted and needed. If you can join to help kind of save us in this moment, statuscoup.com/join. I'm almost feeling like until we figure this out, it's safer to ask you to become a patron. We have, if you search for Status Coup in Patreon, you get the same perks. We will figure this out. I'm determined. I'm nervous because it is an unknown, but we'll do it. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure that everything's okay. It's just like the unknown at this time is certainly not an easy feeling, but I know we'll all come out okay because we have you guys, the viewers. So once again, statuscoup.com/account if you're already a member, so you can check everything out. Statuscoup.com/join if you would like to become a member to help us out to get through this weird time. And info@statuscoup.com if you have any info, any questions, any suggestions. Thanks, guys.
So, bottom line, Cliff Notes version. Every day, it's showing a lot. The basic number of members that we have is decreasing rapidly. It's showing up like we're losing 20 to 30 a day. That is very abnormal. It's never happened before. Nothing has happened that would make 20 to 30 people cancel every single day. So we think it's a tech glitch, but we haven't been able to figure it out. It's been very difficult to get anyone on the phone from the platform we use, MemberPress. We're hoping it is a tech issue, but please, like Jen said, if you are a member and you haven't canceled, go to statuscoup.com/account. Make sure it's still active. If it's showing up as not active and you did not cancel and you want to be a member still, email us at info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com. It would actually help us if you are a member and it's showing up as not active. Those examples would be something that we could use to show our platform that we use for financial payments. Hey, your members are getting canceled and they're not canceling. So bottom line, we're kind of fucked if this continues happening. Our business model is membership. We have worked our fucking asses off, excuse my French, to grow our membership. Before coronavirus, we were almost at 2,000 members. You could see, there has been steady decline because people have been losing their jobs, but it has accelerated significantly in the last 2 weeks where we're losing first it was 10 members a day, then it was 20 members a day. Then I take a walk yesterday and I come back and we've lost 40 members in 2 hours. That ain't normal. We think it's a tech problem. If you are a tech person, if you have experience with WordPress or anything like that, please email us also, info@statuscoup.com. More minds are better than one on this. So that's the deal. And yes, if you can, we know times are tough for everybody. If you can, please sign up as a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/join. Just got a new member, David. Thank you for signing up. So we've gotten Teresa and David have signed up so far since I've been live. Keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join, and we will keep you updated if we figure out what the hell is going on with this membership purge that, like Jen said, doesn't seem to be actually people canceling, but it is showing on our end that people are canceling. So I want to move on to another topic, which is coronavirus. I think we've all kind of gotten numb. And, oh, by the way, one last thing. If you're already a member and everything's good and it's showing up as a member, we still are actively trying to raise money in our GoFundMe. As you could see, we are close to our next milestone of $128,000 raised. To be clear, if you are new to Status Coup, we don't have $127,000 in the bank. This is a GoFundMe we've been doing on a ongoing basis for over 2 years, and this is how much we've cumulatively raised. But we also have been spending the money we've raised on the fly, not on the fly, in real time as we travel, as we cover stories in the field, as we buy new equipment, as we advertise. A lot of the money has been used for the reporting we do in the field and other things to elevate our reporting. So if you can, we understand, times are tough. If you can, please chip in to the GoFundMe as well. Jen will put the link in the super chat. So I want to get to coronavirus because I think we've all kind of, I don't want to say gotten numb, but, we were just focused on the election. We were focused on all the other things that were going on. Trump's lunacy. We'll get to Trump's lunacy in a bit too. And honestly, I think that what is going on right now, we are in a very, very dangerous position where Yes, there's good news potentially on a vaccine. Yes, there might be a vaccine starting to be distributed by the end of this year, but that vaccine would first be going to frontline workers. Status Coup, please investigate my experience. It definitely could be the issue. Jennifer, please email us. What is your experience? Definitely email us. If you're having an issue with your membership, please email us, info@statuscoup.com. We need as much information from actual members as possible, because if you've been canceled, or if you are a member and it's not, or it's canceled you, or it's showing as inactive, we need to know so we could show that to the platform that we use for payments. Sign up. So, or email us, info@statuscoup.com. I beg of you, email us at info@statuscoup.com. Jen and I are worried sick about this, and we need to figure it out. So, yesterday, we had 139,000 cases of coronavirus. Just remember, this has been every single day we are seeing record numbers, like more than even in March and April. That is almost 70% increase over 2 weeks. And this was yesterday. Today, once they do the count, it might be even more than that. The death count going up significantly. We're talking nearly 1,500 people died. By the way, at the height of this thing, in March and April, 2,000 people died. It's not there yet. It's starting to head there. We have a president who is pretending the election was stolen from him. I'm done entertaining, these people who keep telling me, "Oh no, Jordan, you're not seeing it." I have people on Twitter being like, "Well, can you prove that there is no evidence that the election was stolen?" That's called proving a double negative. You don't first set out to prove that something isn't happening. You set out to prove something is happening, and usually you set out to prove something nefarious is happening if there's actually underlying evidence that stinks. There is no evidence of a organized, coordinated cabal that stole hundreds of thousands of votes from Donald Trump and gave it to Joe Biden. I expect Republicans to push this crap, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The progressives pushing this crap need to stop. If they consider themselves progressive, stop. You're not being contrarian. You're not being clever. You look stupid pushing this crap. There is election fraud in America. There was election fraud against Bernie. There's been election fraud against other progressives. There is no organized conspiratorial cabal to steal the election from President Trump and hand over hundreds of thousands of votes to Joe Biden. And people need to just stop pushing it because it's nonsense. But my point is, you have a president who has checked out. He today made an appearance for Veterans Day. But other than that, he has been tweeting. He's been with his team filing lawsuits. And, bottom line, he's not doing a damn thing about coronavirus, because I think right now he's setting up for his next steps, which might be Trump TV. It might be sitting in his bed and tweeting for the next 4 years until he runs again. Who the hell knows? But we're in a very, very dangerous situation because nothing is being done at the federal level to turn this thing around. Let me just read. Disease experts see COVID-19 trends worsening in the U.S. Infectious disease experts warned on Wednesday that the surge in COVID cases in many parts of the U.S. is likely to get much worse over the next few weeks. And despite recent promising news about a vaccine by Pfizer and BioNTech, wide distribution of the vaccine will take time. Quote, "It's helpful to know there is an end in sight, but that end is not going to appear magically in January, February, or March," said Dr. Andrew Pavia, an infectious disease specialist at University of Utah School of Medicine. Quote, "That end is next summer or fall. That's a hard message to give, but it's critical." On Monday, Pfizer said an early analysis of its vaccine trial found the vaccine to be more than 90% effective in preventing COVID-19. But that initial finding could change as the trial goes on. Mr. Pavia noted that in his region, the Mountain West, the healthcare system was already strained as the holiday season loomed. Quote, "The situation in the hospitals is going to be quite a bit worse in the next 2 to 3 weeks than it is today. If Thanksgiving does the same thing to us that Memorial Day did and that Labor Day did, and people gather, as we all want to, without taking precautions, we could see another acceleration going into Christmas." So, bottom line, right now, cases are going up everywhere. But right now, the the real concentration is in the Midwest and the Mountain West. Wisconsin, really bad right now. North Dakota and South Dakota, really bad right now. And frankly, most of the increases in cases is coming from indoor gatherings. It's coming from indoor restaurants. Oh, by the way, we just got 2 new members. Welcome, Farhad. Welcome, Robert. Thank you. We just got, so that's 4 new members so far. Keep signing up. According to our members, according to our site, we're now at 1,584. Please keep signing up. And like I said, keep emailing us if you're having issues with your membership. info@statuscoup.com. So bottom line, this is going to get a lot worse because you still have this president, when he's not tweeting about election fraud, and the Republican Party basically making mask wearing as a culture war. They've made masks akin to guns in terms of the culture. You had Marco Rubio today go to Georgia to campaign for Senator Nathan Perdue and this other Republican that are in the Georgia runoffs that are happening in December. And literally, this gathering was indoors, packed like sardines, without masks. Most of them were not wearing masks. It was bad enough that we went to a super spreading event. I got my COVID test back. I was negative, thankfully. But we went to a super spreading event outdoors where I'd say 75% of people were not wearing masks. This is an indoor event in Georgia. Nobody was wearing masks, or half the people were not wearing masks, to the point where CNN reporter and the reporter's crew left. I don't agree with CNN on much. I probably would have left too, because you're just asking to get coronavirus at that point if you're at an indoor event where half the people are not wearing masks. So the other thing is, listen, the bottom line is Thanksgiving's coming. I mean, Thanksgiving's in 2 weeks? And, I think a lot of people are under the false impression that your friends or family members don't have it because maybe they're wearing masks or maybe they're responsible people. I've talked to my friends who I've kind of had to say things to because I see them posting on Facebook pictures without masks next to people that aren't wearing masks. And one of my friends who I love said, yeah, but they're responsible. It ain't about being responsible. I got coronavirus in April and I was responsible. I wore a mask when I went outside. So the people, the corona truthers could say, the devil's advocate say, okay, Jordan, so why are you telling people to wear a mask? You wore a mask and you got it. Yeah, nobody is saying a mask is 100% you will not get coronavirus. Nobody is saying that. But the science, I know Republicans aren't big on the science or science in general, but the science and the studies show wearing a mask drops in the spread by 70%. Okay? People are not dying of a broken nail. People are not hospitalized because they have the cold or the flu. You, Dimitri, I love how Jen was disinfecting you. Yes, that was, I reeked, but I appreciate Jen disinfecting me. We all needed to be disinfected at that event. So the bottom line is, people are going to want to see their relatives on Thanksgiving. People are going to wrongly assume, well, my relatives are wearing masks and we won't sit that close. And, everybody's responsible. We all wear masks all the time. That doesn't necessarily mean it can't spread indoors at a table. I'm not going to bother with Trump right now because Trump's not going to change. He doesn't care. He obviously doesn't care about people getting sick because he held these super spreading rallies and he knew people were going to get sick. He doesn't care. We have to now look at Biden, okay? Because Biden is going to be president, whether Republicans like it or not, and whether some progressives who are claiming still the election was stolen, whatever. Honestly, Biden right now, and I know the civil libertarians are going to kick and scream. Biden right now should be calling for a national lockdown. And Biden right now should be calling for a national lockdown with the federal government covering payrolls, with some form of universal basic income. I know he's not going to do any of this, but I'm telling you what he should do. Because if we continue to have different states doing different things, New York doing this, New York doing one thing, North Dakota doing another thing, if we don't have one uniform policy that every state is doing the same thing, if you don't provide people, even the mass truthers, with stable income, a backstop, exactly what exactly what Europe is doing. Europe is covering, the government is covering the payrolls. They're not pushing people onto unemployment. They're covering their payrolls. Okay? They also have universal health care because they have their priorities straight. We need to stop this virus until there's a vaccine that could be widely distributed to everybody. You are not going to fix the economy. And by the way, before the coronavirus, the economy was rigged. This is your economy that Republicans and Democrats are talking about. This is it. This is the United States economy. That's the only thing you need to worry about. Trump. Hey, new patron, Michael. Woohoo! We got people signing up as members. We got people signing up as patrons. Keep signing up. statuscoup.com/join. Or you can become a patron. And we just got Michael just signed up as a patron. So, Jen, drop the link in if you can for patron and membership in the super chat. The bottom line is, forget progressive priorities for a second. Medicare for all, focusing on income inequality, strengthening labor unions, a Green New Deal. None of that shit matters if we are going to have 500,000 people dying in a year. We're already at 240,000 people dying. Okay? And I think that number is underreported. I think it's more than that. People have died that were not counted as COVID. So at the end of the day, we could all, have our culture war. We could all rant about lockdowns. We could all say, don't tread on me. I have a right to go out without a mask, or, I don't want to sit home and be depressed and be anxious and, not see my family and not see my friends. I totally understand I'm lucky that I'm married now. My beautiful wife is in the chat. I understand for young people who are single, it's very difficult. Lockdowns. I understand for young people who want to go to, are of college age and they can't go to their dorms and they can't have their normal life. But at the end of the day, what we should have done in the beginning and why China isn't having this explosion like we are is because China locked down the fucking country. And I understand that, people are going to say, well, we're not China and you can't do that in America and nobody would follow that and blah, 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 blah. You could do a lot of things in America if you have the will. You could do a lot of things in America. Don't get it twisted. Don't believe them when Joe Biden says, well, we're not Denmark, we're America. Don't get it twisted. Ooh, we just got another patron, Dylan. Woohoo! Awesome. Keep signing up. Membership, Patreon. We love you. We love you. Love you. Keep signing up. Please, please, please. So, we need a lockdown, period. And I understand you can't have a lockdown without economic security for everybody. Take these people off unemployment, give them their jobs back, and have the government cover the goddamn payrolls. Excuse my French. It's ridiculous. People, all right, Biden, you don't want to do Medicare for all? We'll fight you on that another time. Right now, no copays for any of this shit. No, I just had to pay a $100 copay for a coronavirus test. That is unconscionable. I could afford it. Even though I don't have a ton of money, I was able to pay for it. A lot of working people can't pay $100 for a coronavirus test. By the way, I have health insurance and I had to pay $100. Treatment is not free. I've seen the horror stories of people getting, tens of thousands of dollars in bills. One person out of Seattle had $1 million bill for, I think, a hospitalization of 3 weeks for coronavirus. Joe Biden, you want to build back better, buddy? You want to be the soul of America or whatever nonsense you spew? Medicare expansion. Medicare should cover anything having to do with coronavirus, including long-term problems with coronavirus, because there are people with coronavirus who have long-term symptoms. I just spoke with a friend who I think is in his 50s who has severe fatigue months after the infection. His girlfriend is having respiratory problems month after the infection. This can affect certain people in different ways. Knock on wood. I mean, I had it in April. I'm relatively fine other than really bad constipation and other things, which is unrelated to coronavirus. But a lot of people who had coronavirus still have long-term consequences, and we don't know what the long-term effects of this are. So the bottom line is, if you want to move Joe Biden on something in the imminent, he should be calling on Trump, Republicans, or whatever, national lockdown, Medicare cover all expenses related to testing and treatment, long-term care, and universal basic income, either universal basic income until that vaccine is distributed widely, and we see how, once the vaccine is distributed widely, we see how the cases are doing. You would think if people are vaccinated, those cases are going to go down. Clan, unsubscribed. Bye-bye. If you're a coronavirus truther, I don't care if you unsubscribe. Bottom line is, I don't want to hear from civil libertarians right now. You're right to go out and act like an idiot without a mask is not a higher right than my right to live. Okay? Your right to go out to super spreading rallies or Thanksgiving and be free is not a greater right than my right or your right to live. Because what you're doing can kill me. What you're doing can kill my family. Because if I pass you and you've been irresponsible, you could contract the virus to me. And trust me, I've interviewed enough. I've interviewed enough Trump supporters. They have no fucking clue how this virus works. Perfect example. I posted a link this morning to the video I did. I interviewed a Trump supporter, I don't know, probably in his 20s, at the 10,000 people super spreader event in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania last week. It was the day before the election. He's not wearing a mask. He says to me, "Well, I took a test and I have antibodies, so I don't have to wear a mask because I can't pass it." How do you know that? How do you know that, sir? How do you know because you took a test that says you have antibodies? I took a test that said I have antibodies. You know how many stories there are out there that people don't even know if that test is reliable? People don't even know the antibodies could last for some people for a month, some people for 3 months, some people for a couple weeks. Nobody knows anything. But what we do know through science, through studies, and through other countries, the things that do work, universal mask wearing and locking down the country. I don't know what other way to tell it. And to be clear, small businesses have to have their payrolls covered by the government. I'm not talking about a lockdown and just throw people to the wolves. No. I'm talking about you need to provide, like my mom and dad, they own a small business, a jewelry store on Long Island. Their payroll needs to be covered by the government and everybody sent home. That is what we should have done in the beginning, and the cases would have plummeted. It's not to say there wouldn't be any spread in the country if we did that. Would have been a lot lower. Look at China right now. I know, Jordan, you're pointing to a communist country. Who gives a shit? Look at China. They did a lockdown. They did an insane amount of testing, contract tracing, and they barely, it's in some places, it doesn't even exist in China right now. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Thanksgiving is coming. Christmas is coming. Hanukkah is coming. This is the holiday season. Everybody's, why can't we as a country during a pandemic do the basic smart thing? Send everybody home. Let's do it start out with 3 weeks. Everybody home for 3 weeks. Payrolls covered, treatment covered, essential workers, delivery workers are the only people out. I know it sucks. I know people don't like it. Not everybody wants to sit home and watch Netflix and chill. But what is the alternative? What is the alternative? We had 139,000 cases yesterday. We're headed to 150,000 cases in a day. This could spiral out of control and go to 200,000. It could go to 200,000 cases in a day. And by the way, as the cases go up, the death count goes up. We had 2,000 people dying in the beginning of this a day. It could get back to that. It could surpass that. Especially because back then, the culture war had not gotten to the level it's at now over a mask. And by the way, I am also not excluding progressives from this. I totally understand people wanted to celebrate getting rid of Trump. You had celebrations all over the country. That shit needs to stop too. Is it safer than these super spreading events where people aren't wearing masks? Is it safer that people are outside celebrating with masks? It's safer if you're celebrating with a mask than at an event without a mask, but spread happens. People have their masks on too low, and even if you have your mask on, it can spread. So mass gatherings of any kind right now should end. All I want for Christmas is Medicare for all and UBI. Don't we all? It's just insane to me. This is a very obvious, simple thing. $2,000 a month. I agree. For the people, by the way, there are millions of people in this country right now that have been without federal stimulus, federal unemployment for over 3 months. The $600 expired, $600 a week expired 3 months ago. Those people need to be made whole. Woo, we just got a $50 donation in the GoFundMe. Woohoo! Thank you so much, Anonymous. $50. We love you. Anonymous, $5. We're now, what is that, $115 from another milestone of $128,000 raised. Maybe we can get that $115 while I'm still alive. GoFundMe is appreciated. Super chats are appreciated. And, of course, sign up as a member. Statuscoup.com/join. Statuscoup.com/join. Somebody asked, how many cases did we have yesterday? Almost 15 deaths. We had almost 15,000. Oh, my God. We had almost 1,500 deaths just yesterday. 140,000 cases. Almost 140,000 just yesterday. Look at that. That's almost a 70% increase in 2 weeks. Almost a 25% increase in deaths. You got the North Dakota, South Dakota. I mean, the South Dakota governor went out and did some political ad making mask wearing, like mocking people who wear masks. This is the governor of South Dakota. Well, look whose states have the highest amounts. North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin is out of control. We will get through this, but you're not, like these people who are so focused, and I understand it. If you're a small business owner, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, it's an equal amount to you. It's an equal risk of lockdowns because, all right, you could die, but economically, if you go under, it's a certain death too. We're going to have mass evictions. By the way, I did an ad. Cancel the rent too, or freeze the rent until this is over. But the bottom line is, you're not going to stop the economic hemorrhaging if you don't radically decrease the amount of the spread. That's what Trump never understood. Trump could have won re-election if he would have taken it seriously from the beginning, if he would have listened to the doctors and the scientists, if he would have, with his authoritarian impulses, locked down the country, acted like a strong man. His supporters would have gone with whatever the hell he did. If he locked down the country, the case spread would have plummeted, and we'd still have cases, but it wouldn't be to this level. So we'll keep following as more information comes. I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about what the number is going to be for today, both in cases and deaths. It seems to be going up and up and up. We were just in Philadelphia. It was a record that day. And every day, it's a new record for cases. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. Last story. So Trump, and continue to subscribe if you're new here, by the way. We are just past 95,000 subscribers, so we are very, very, very eager to keep going and get to that 100,000 subscribers, hopefully before the end of the year. So definitely subscribe if you're new here. Share this live stream, all that good stuff. So President Trump is still throwing a temper tantrum about losing the election. I don't know what world Republicans live in. I don't know what world a lot of these so-called progressive media people are living in, where they think that, let me zoom in on this, they think that hundreds of thousands of votes between Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada were basically stolen, taken from Trump, given to Biden. That's just delusional. Of course, there's individual instances in every election. There's actual fraud. There's actual voter suppression. We've seen it in the primaries at the expense of Bernie Sanders. We've seen it in primaries against other progressives. We've seen voters being purged. 200,000 voters were purged in New York during the New York primary in 2016. We've seen the fuckery during the Iowa caucus, which to me was election fraud. This app and, them basically making up the numbers as they went. Tom Perez and the DNC to give Pete Buttigieg the optical win. There is actual election fraud. And there's massive voter suppression in this country. But in no legitimate world does, hundreds of thousands of votes. There's not enough fraud, and there's not a well enough organized conspiracy, because for a conspiracy to work, everybody's got to be in it, and it has to be very well organized. And there's no evidence that this election was stolen. What Donald Trump is doing, some believe he's doing a coup right now. Some believe he's in the middle of an active coup. I don't. I'll get to that in a minute. But what Donald Trump is doing is disgusting. It is unconscionable. It shows why my argument, I think, was right. The guy is a narcissistic psychopath. He has delusions of grandeur. And really, what he's doing right now, it is not about staying president. It's not about that. What Donald Trump is doing, I missed some super chats. What Donald Trump is doing is it's like a drunk. He can't go without the adoration. He can't go without the crowds. He can't go without being in the media cycle 24/7. That is his oxygen. He had severe daddy issues as a kid. According to reports, some mommy issues too. And being president and being worshipped and developing a cult has been his oxygen. He's also performing a major grift. If you're getting the emails from his campaign, if you're getting the text messages from his campaign, he's raising tens of thousands of dollars at this point, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, to fight for his lawsuits, which lawyers around the country, including the law firms of his lawyers, are saying are ridiculous, are going to be thrown out of court. It's a joke. But he's got a lot of campaign debt, so that money is going to go to paying down his campaign debt. And as we know from the New York Times tax story, he owes somebody $400 million. So he's raising a lot of money right now for various purposes. The other thing is, it's been long rumored he's going to start a TV network. You don't think Donald Trump would start a TV network and use his TV platform to make a shit ton of money and keep his options open if he wants to run in 2024? Honestly, let's just look at it objectively. He's probably thinking I'd be running against Kamala Harris. Even if Joe Biden is still with us, it's not a guarantee Joe Biden will run for re-election. And Donald Trump probably thinks he could easily win against Kamala Harris a re-election. So the bottom line is what Donald Trump is doing right now, and I'm seeing David Sirota, who I respect. He's talking about Trump is staging a coup. Why are Dems not sounding the alarm? You could read this at his newsletter. He goes back to the 2000 recount to show Democrats didn't take what Republicans were doing seriously enough in terms of trying to steal the election, and that's why the election was stolen. Let me read a little bit of David Sirota's piece. One big takeaway here should be that in the long term, the Electoral College has to go. It has now become an even bigger threat to democracy beyond just routinely throwing elections to the losers of the national popular vote. The system is being weaponized by a Republican Party determined to thwart the will of the voters. In this particular crisis unfolding right now in the short term, a strong and serious response is needed. We do not need silly, self-aggrandizing, money-wasting vanity stunts from grifter groups like the Lincoln Project, who are preparing a campaign to try to make Trump attorneys at big law firms feel bad about themselves, as if a vicious politician like Trump can somehow be deprived of ruthless legal representation. We need a vociferous public campaign focused on preventing state legislators from feeling empowered to ignore their own voters. And such a campaign would be successful because at least some of these states' legislatures are only narrowly controlled by the Republicans, meaning they may be sensitive to a future voter backlash in 2022 that could come from their actions to steal a presidential election. And yet, instead of sounding the alarm, Biden and Kamala Harris seem to have settled on a nothing to see here approach. The Biden-Harris campaign has been proceeding as if everything is fine, rolling out some transition team names and announcing that Biden has talked to some world leaders. Biden's comments today about the election were even more sedated, and anyone than Al Gore back during the 2000 Florida recount. The most he could muster was an assertion that the GOP's behavior is embarrassing and might hurt Trump's legacy, as if this is a West Wing episode inanely presuming that any single Republican elected official in this country cares about such things. Okay. You also have, apparently, Trump. He's proceeding like business as usual. White House is telling federal agencies to proceed with plans for Trump's February budget and latest sign of electoral defiance. So, this might bother some progressives, and thank you so much. Gene, 1999. Indiana is moonwalking away from stage 5 reopening. Gatherings of only 25 to 50 people, depending on the county. My local hospital is at 90% capacity. Well, I'm glad your governor, Holcomb, finally coming to his senses. I think he should go even further than that, but that's a start, because hospital capacity is going to be beyond 90% if governors don't do that all over this country. So I'm very, very happy to hear that, Gene. By the way, if I missed your super chat, apologies. Ashura, you could, Jen, if you can rewrite whatever your super chat was, and I'll read it. Holy cow, $200 in the GoFundMe. London Bat. Wow. Thank you so much, London Bat. You've given us so many GoFundMe donations in the last few weeks. We greatly appreciate it, London Bat. I can't wait to come back to London. I went there with my wife last year, my first time there. We really appreciate your generosity, and it actually makes a difference. We have a lot of expenses. As you know, we don't take money from the evil fuckers. So thank you so much. We've now raised $128,000. Got to raise a lot more to keep this train going. And by the way, just so you know, all of this is tied together. The GoFundMe and the money we've raised is partly why we are growing on YouTube. We know the recipe for Status Coup to grow. In the field journalism. Sure, we can still grow at a lesser pace when we're home, but being out there, covering the stories no one else covers, covering Black Lives Matter, covering economic protests, covering Flint and the still ongoing water crisis, being out there to cover the stories no one else does, even when we're home, interviewing people that will never get a platform elsewhere, covering stories that no one else will. It all works together, but we need the funding to go out. And we might go out at a lesser rate right now because we got to be safe too. Coronavirus, none of us are immune to it. But the GoFundMe donations, the membership, all of this is helping us grow on YouTube. And as we grow on YouTube, it's a domino effect from there. Good things happen. As we grow on YouTube, we're able to get better interviews because, people want to come on channels with a bigger audience. As we grow on YouTube, we get more revenue from YouTube. So it helps us. So we're adding to our revenue streams. It's not just membership, but YouTube revenue then grows. When you grow on YouTube, frankly, we don't have definitive proof, but we do believe as YouTube recognizes channels if they're growing quicker, and they then end up recommending those channels more. That we've seen from other channels. So all of this is connected. So I really, really appreciate it, London Bat. I appreciate even those who can't donate that much, whether it's $5, $10, everything matters. Everything matters. And I really appreciate it even more that people are donating, even though times are tough, because it shows you see this not as kind of entertainment, but you see this status coup as something that is a need. There's a need for this. So definitely all good things. Subscribe to this channel, share the content, and please, 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 if you can, sign up as a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. We're also on Twitter, if you don't know that, at Status Coup on Twitter, at Status Coup on Twitter. So, bottom line, and let me just show you this batshit. This is people protesting outside Fox News, of all places.
My name is Ed Martin, and I am the president of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, our organization, which is based in St. Louis and has an office here in Washington, D.C. I'm one of the organizers, one of the people helping with the Stop the Steal, stopthesteal.us, stopthestealcampaign.com. Actually, it's a little better site right now. It had some issues. But all across the country, Americans have been looking at what's happening, and they have had two reactions. One reaction is that they need to get to the bottom of the constitutional process. It's not what Van Jones says on CNN about what he thinks is important. He thinks concessions are important. The Constitution is important. And we have seen so many problems with the election that we need to get to the bottom of it. And the second thing the American people are saying is, who can they trust? They look out at the media, they look at the websites and the internet and social media, and they say, who can I trust? Because they notice censorship, they notice shadow banning, and then they notice egregious misconduct on the part of our major cable providers, especially. And so here we are where Fox News is based and other entities are based, and the reason why we're here is because the American people are sick of what they've seen happen. For months and months and months, cable outlets like that.
So, bottom line, I have a really, really, I guess you could say, hot take on all of this. And it's going to worry some people. A lot of people might think that this is the wrong take, because a lot of people are, understandably worried by all things Donald Trump. But part of why Donald Trump was created as before he was president was because the media exploited Donald Trump for their own benefit. The media played his press conferences pushing that Obama wasn't born here. The media interviewed him pushing that Obama wasn't born here. The media interviewed him on him hiring an investigator to go look for Obama's birth certificate. The media made Donald Trump, more so than Donald Trump ever did anything. And give it to Donald Trump. He was a smart cookie. He knew how to play the media even before he got into national politics. He was an expert on playing the local New York City media in his rise as a real estate person. So, I understand that David Sirota, and I like David, that his take is we should be taking this more seriously. He's trying to execute a coup. He's trying to execute a coup in America. And if we don't take it seriously and if we don't fight, he might just do it. I actually have the complete opposite view. And I don't think the media is going to do this because the media, corporate media, that is CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, all of them. People can't remember this, but the New York Times digital subscription was not exploding before Donald Trump. MSNBC's ratings were in the toilet before Donald Trump came down that escalator. CNN's ratings before Donald Trump, in the toilet. Cable news, I used to work in cable news, was a dying platform before Trump went down that escalator. And Krystal and I talked about that. All these outlets that are pretending to be outraged, don't they kind of want Trump to stay in the national spotlight for ratings, so that they keep their viewers outraged, keep their viewers in fear of Trump? So Donald Trump, first of all, again, I understand this is a sensitive topic. I understand if people think I'm wrong. Donald Trump, but legally, and of course, all bets are off if the Supreme Court stepped in. If the Supreme Court, in another egregious 2000 recount type situation, stepped in and stole the election from Biden. But to me, if the Supreme Court was going to do that, it would have been before the election was called. It would have been before the election was called by Joe Biden. It would have been before Pennsylvania was called. I think it's a very, very, very unlikely scenario at this point. The Supreme Court is going to come down and do anything. So at the end of the day, legally speaking, if the Supreme Court isn't going to do anything, Donald Trump, and I have read, Donald Trump doesn't have any real legal ground. He has no legal grounding. So then a coup, you need military behind you in most places to exert a coup. Well, I don't particularly think the military of America, it's Veterans Day, by the way, I don't particularly think they're going to blockade the White House and protect Trump. I mean, I don't see any reason to think that. So then what does Trump have? If he doesn't have real legal challenges, if he doesn't have the military to protect him and keep him in power, what's he going to do to exert this coup that people are worried about? I understand that it's outrageous. Don't get me twisted. What Trump is doing is outrageous. It is disgusting. It is unconscionable. Even the lowest of the lows, warmongers like John McCain, vulture capitalists, and Wall Street scum like Mitt Romney. I mean, if they lose, they lose. They concede and they go away. This is America. That's how it's supposed to be. So what Donald Trump is doing, and I'm not a Joe Biden person. I don't, but Joe Biden won the election. I think the primary was rigged, but the general election, he won. I mean, that's just the facts. He did get the most votes that anyone has ever gotten. I know the conspiracy theorists aren't never going to accept it. I know they think he didn't really get those votes. That's fine. But I'm in reality. They could live in their fantasy land. I'm living in reality. But the bottom line is, maybe it's time with Trump to try something completely different. Do you want to know what would crush Trump? Do you want to know how you stop this fakakta conspiracy? What would crush Trump is stop giving him the attention he seeks. I'm talking to CNN. I'm talking to the MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, all of them. The devil's advocate, well, Jordan, what do you mean? He's still the sitting president. How could you not cover him? I'm not saying don't cover him. He obviously is still president. He could do executive orders till January. He could, with the Republican Senate, try to push a lot of different things. I'm not saying don't cover Donald Trump. But if he's pushing nonsense, if he's pushing fact-free bullshit, which he's been doing for years, and the media has elevated all of it, why the only way that Donald Trump is able to even keep this discussion going, the only way that Donald Trump can even keep putting out this grift that the election was stolen, he didn't really lose, he had the legal votes, Biden had the illegal votes, is if CNN keeps giving the platform, if CNN keeps reporting on it, if MSNBC keeps reporting on it. The Times, the Washington Post, Trump lost. Now you could report on other things. And frankly, the Constitution does not say, it does not stipulate that the candidate has to concede. Biden and his administration do need, a concession is not a required thing for a new administration to take over. Although it's customary, it's not a necessary thing for Biden to even visit the White House. And the outgoing president, speak with the president-elect. Biden's been in the White House. He knows his way around. This is not me like rah Joe Biden. I'm just saying the only way that this coup or coup attempt succeeds is if you keep giving it oxygen. The one thing that Donald Trump cannot take, he will melt, is if his tweets are not reported on, is if his tantrums are not reported on, is if his lawsuits are not reported on. If that happens, he's relegated essentially to basically Alex Jones as president for 2 months. I mean, that's the truth. I understand people might say, well, Jordan, that's a very risky strategy. If you just ignore it and, hope it will go away. I'm not saying ignore him. He is the president. You still have to cover him in certain respects. But legally speaking, the main threat here, and what David in his newsletter was comparing it to, the 2000 recount, it's not the equivalent because the Supreme Court is not involved. Now, is it completely impossible? Is it completely impossible to think that the Supreme Court might get involved? No. I mean, it's possible. But at this point, I think there was a much better chance of the Supreme Court getting involved before the election was counted, before the election was called, than now. He doesn't have the legal ground to stand on, and I don't think he has, mesmerized the military to blockade the White House so that he could stay. So, will the media do this? Of course not. They can't turn away from the profit. They can't turn away from the ratings. And if you think that it's not a rating bonanza to keep suburban wine moms and resistant suburbia who voted for Biden, keep them watching in fear, in anxiety of what will Trump do? Yeah, well, they will keep watching until that man is removed. And the media can do the smart thing and ignore it. Say, we're not going to keep reporting on this because it has no facts. It's a lunatic conspiratorial cabal. It is beneath the dignity of the president and America, and we're not going to keep giving it oxygen. We'll let Donald Trump tweet out into the ether. We'll let right-wing outlets push it, but we're not going to. But they're not going to do it because they need the profit, they need the ratings, and they're not real journalists. And that's the truth. All right. Thank you. Yes, there's my wife. Cheering for all our new members today. Thank you for watching. I will post the interview with Krystal Ball probably tomorrow morning if you missed it. Please keep signing up as a member. We really need you guys. If you can, statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as a cup of coffee a month, $5 a month, and you will get an invite once you become a member to our Discord, our members-only Discord, as well as other behind-the-scenes content. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow.